Hey.
Hey y'all, you're tuned in to No Labels, Just Vibes, where we're breaking boxes and building connections.
Beyond labels and straight to truth.
Two mics, one mission.
No filter. That's the vision.
Hey.
All right. So today's conversation is really personal. It's called
Mm-hmm.
the blueprint. Did they learn to hurt you from you? Because sometimes we don't even realize that we're teaching people how to disrespect us through what we accept, what we explain away, or what we keep forgiving.
Exactly, and it's in that moment when you realize, like, I can't even blame them fully because I showed them how to treat me by what I tolerated, like what I let them do to me. Whew, that was
That's
crazy.
so true. And in this particular episode, I feel like it's not for the weak-hearted. We're talking about patterns, pain, and the psychology behind how love actually can be turned into survival.
Yes, so let's get into it. Hey. I don't know what his name is, but I thought he was so cute.
He's
But
adorable. I
he
love
is.
it. I gotta give me one.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's get into it for real though, because accountability, it might sting,
Hmm.
but it's the only way to unlearn that old blueprint that
Yeah,
we've been following for so long.
exactly. Exactly. So I just want to jump into the episode and talk about how patterns actually form and repeat. So I'm gonna let you lead with this as far as this is gonna be our story time segment and
Mhm.
pretty much some backstory as to why we felt like inclined to do this episode because I feel like a lot of the times we get stuck in these repeat patterns with a person and it becomes a cycle to where we don't even realize initially that we are
In it.
teaching a person how to pretty much break us all the way down.
Mhm. I think there's a realization that has to take place where, like I used to think being patient made me strong, like waiting for someone to meet me where I was showed love. But I didn't realize that I was training them to believe my boundaries were flexible
Mm,
and that my silence meant that I accepted it or that my forgiveness was endless. And, when we kind of like connect it to like past conditioning, when we look back, it makes sense because growing up in a space where love was something that you have to earn, you begin to learn that early on that peace comes after pleasing,
mm,
people pleasing.
yes.
Hey, if I stay calm, if I stay quiet, maybe I'll feel safe. So when someone disrespected me, I didn't see it as mistreatment. I saw it as another chance to prove I was worthy of being treated right. Like, no, don't do this to me. Like treat me the way that I want to be treated. But the impact was that the pattern kept happening opposite of what I was expecting. And so I was managing everybody else's comfort but my own.
Mhm.
And so that the people pleasing eventually turned into emotional burnout because I started doubting my intuition. I think we talked about it in our last podcast where, I felt like what I needed, like my needs were too much. I stopped trusting myself and I didn't even realize that I was beginning to neglect myself.
Mm,
And so I feel like there was a point of awareness when I realized like they didn't just start mistreating me. This was something that was happening for a long time. I was teaching them that I would tolerate it.
right.
Keep doing what you're doing. I'll figure out a way to accept it.
Yeah.
And I had trained them through every excuse, through every it's okay, it's fine, through every time I swallowed my truth that my peace was optional.
Mhm.
And I think now I kind of understand that love doesn't have to be earned. Like through my marriage now, I'm really realizing that boundaries don't make me difficult, but that's how I protect myself.
Mhm.
That's how I make myself safe. And strength isn't staying through disrespect.
Exactly.
It's making the hard decision to walk away from something that confuses your peace.
No, I completely 100% agree with that. I think that, initially when we get into these relationship dynamics from a broken place, right? Before we truly heal,
Mhm,
our perception of what love is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to be based on what we experienced growing up is completely, it'll either be shell shocking, right? Or it'll be the breakthrough, the catalyst to
mhm.
realizing, like, hey, like, this
I
is
love
not
that.
normal. This is not healthy.
Mhm,
Going back to even, with the previous situation, and I talked about it on my podcast, and we're constantly talking about
mhm,
how, this dynamic that I have been in with Shay, and how it literally took almost a year for
mm.
me to actually get it and break and bust through that delusion. Like,
Yes.
it's not 100% his fault.
Mhm,
You know what I'm saying? And your wife was telling me that the other day. And that's
mhm.
something I always knew, right? I can't put all of the fault on that person
That's
because
right.
at some point, when you start to feel like something is off, or you start to feel disrespected and violated over and over and over again, and the person is literally showing no signs of consistent change, only
Mhm,
signs of consistent confusion,
mm,
right? At some point, you have to be able to break that delusion that you have in your mind, like, oh, maybe this is just for the moment. They
mhm.
are eventually going to get it. No, some people aren't going to get it. They're just going to
Right.
continue to do what you allow them to do until they get sick of you.
I think that's a really great point, and I think it's more so because the person that you're dealing with, right, when you've been dealing with them for so long, they learn you.
Oh,
They
yeah.
learn the things like, they learn your patterns,
Mhm.
and they learn what makes you tick. They
Yes.
learn how to love on you, they learn how to love bomb you, they learn how to manipulate you. So, in a essence, we are teaching them, right,
Mhm.
how to continue to manipulate us, how to keep pulling the wool over our eyes, how to keep, just causing us to literally stay stuck
Mhm.
because that's what would happen. And it was like every moment where you began to see the light, you would get drawn right back in.
Right back in. He would pull me
And
right back in.
one of the things that I had to realize is that this is a journey that you have to
Mhm.
take on your own because I had been, telling you what I saw. And I've been
Mhm.
telling you, like, sis, look at this, look at that. But I had to realize, like, you know what? And this was a lesson for me.
Mhm.
I can't save somebody from a situation that they're choosing.
Yeah.
And when we choose to be in those situations, it's not because you're stupid. It's not because, like you want to be hurt, but it's because of that hope.
Mm.
Because you fell in love with the potential.
Potential.
And that's the hardest part, right? Because you learn that love has to be earned, right?
Mhm.
And so that experience of the neglect, the chaos, like that was something that you prioritized your partner's comfort to keep the connection.
Yeah.
And there was a hypervigilance where you're scanning for signs of rejection and, that anxiety, that anticipation,
Mhm.
and you avoid naming the pain because that's when you become vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? And that's when you really say, you know what? I really have to realize like this is me taking accountability for what I'm putting myself into. And
Exactly.
that's the scary part.
It is. It's really scary, right? Because then I think it's a level of self-judgment, right? We always perceive ourselves, sometimes we're like the toughest critics, right? So even when we know that we're moving wrong, we still want to have this self-perception of like, yo, this is right. So we do anything that we can to try to justify it, right? To make it make sense. Like I remember various conversations that I've had with not only you, but I've had with you and Bond and my other friend Ashley, where you guys are basically just saying like, this is not it. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not gonna change. Like Ashley's favorite thing to say is, yo, he's literally it's a game. It's
Mhm.
a game. He's literally playing a game with you.
It
And I
remind
didn't want to believe that.
Right.
I didn't wanna believe that because I was like, "Wait, I'm good to you."
Mhm.
And you said it the other day, "I'm probably the best thing that ever came into your life, and you
Mhm.
know it."
It reminds me of what was that old movie that we used to watch back in the day? Two could play that game?
Oh, yes. See, I haven't seen that in a while, my memory be short, you gonna have to you gonna have to refresh me because I think of a thin line between love and hate.
That too. That one too, right? But
Yeah.
okay, so let's take a pause here, right? The media, the videos, and the things that we were shown as
Mhm.
kids, right?
Yeah.
Those were a lot of the reasons why the dating world is the way it is right now.
Yeah, because people are programmed off of that.
We're programmed off of what we learned, right?
Mhm.
It was something about, oh, you can't text this girl the moment that you get her number
Right,
because then you look desperate.
right.
Oh, you can't tell this girl that you love her, that you really care about it, because then she gonna become clingy. Like, it's a
Then it's not
whole
safe to be vulnerable.
thing.
These are things that people are learning and they're you know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? Yes.
mhm. And so even in A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, she told him straight up, like, "Look, you not ready for my crazy.
Yeah.
You not ready for me because when I love hard."
Hard. Yeah.
And the way that like, that movie was a classic.
Oh, yeah.
It taught me so much, but the way that she was depicted back then, I was like, "Oh, this girl is crazy. What's going on?" No, no, no. We never looked at the fact that she was made crazy.
Nobody ever and that always gets, I think it gets overlooked, right?
Mhm,
And I've witnessed this, and matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, I was telling you about the conversation I was having with my ex and how he was complaining about the girl that he chose, and I'm like, "So you don't see any part of yourself in her? Nothing about her is resonates with you. Nothing at all. Not the
mhm,
gaslighting, not the manipulation,
mhm,
nothing, or the
mhm,
fact that, you failed to communicate properly and effectively, and so now y'all is on 2 different pages. She thinks that because now you guys are in a full-fledged committed relationship that you're supposed to move accordingly, but you
mhm,
think that it's the same old program, right?
mhm.
And so now you're confused as to why she's controlling. Oh, this is the narrative that people will paint after they hold your hand and walk you across the crazy bridge. You know what I'm saying? And then they leave you at the other end, and now they're, "Oh my god, she's crazy."
She's crazy. What are we gonna do? Oh my gosh,
They bypass everything that happened
that
in
they
between.
did. And that's literally like that is literally like 101 narcissism.
Yeah,
They
it is.
create these cycles, right? And then they make us believe that it came out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Just
what?
happened overnight. She just became crazy. Like, she was perfectly cool. She used to talk to me. She used to like me. She used to be all about me. And then
Mhm,
slowly, the more pain, the more hurt, the more betrayal that you keep showing this person, the more
mhm,
resentment builds up in that connection, right? And instead of, and this is not putting it on one person versus the other because this goes back to the level that accountability, right?
right.
One person has to decide that I cannot do this
That's
anymore.
right.
This
That's
is
right.
too much. And the moment that we say, you know what? Maybe I'm going to give it another try. That is the exact moment that we betray ourselves.
Mm, mm, mm,
We
mm.
we confuse loyalty or
Mhm.
self betrayal.
Absolutely. But I think it's a little bit deeper than that, right? Because this person knows what makes us tick. They know
Yes.
the things that, they know our childhood and they weaponize it.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like this person is just not like aware of anything. Like they have a lot of inside knowledge. We should be able to trust our partner and
Hmm.
tell our partner in a healthy dynamic, like, okay, this is what happened to me and my with my exes. This is why I do this. This is, like just having like those normal communications that
Yeah.
are healthy.
Yeah.
But the scary part is what happens when a person weaponizes that and uses it against you and begins to manipulate you, right? And then we learn that, okay, I can love you when you act how I want.
So it becomes conditional.
It becomes conditional because it's more about you doing what they want you to do.
Hmm. Yeah. I think when you speak about that, it brings up, the whole Shay thing again, right? And how basically he had put himself in a very vulnerable space. And so, me trying to be a supportive partner, but also honoring and trying to respect my boundaries. I can hold your things at my house, but I can't move you in.
Mhm.
And that is something that we literally had a conversation about at the beginning of our, relationship. I will never move another man into my living space again. Because
Mhm.
I remember what
The
happened the
last
last
time.
time and how
Mhm.
disrespected I felt and
Mm.
how violated I felt and how much I felt like I still had to be the head, right? When I think about entering into partnership and co-living
Mm.
and with a man or a partner in general, I'm not looking at it, "Oh, it has to be 50-50, right? The way that I look at it is you have to be able to show up in ways that I'm not able to and vice versa, right?
Absolutely.
So
A
if
partnership.
a partnership. So if I can't pay 100% of the rent, but you can, you take on that. I got everything else. Don't worry about
That's
it.
right.
On
That's
top of
right.
that, I'm gonna make sure that I cook. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I don't do bathrooms, but I do everything else and floors. You know what I'm saying? So you worry about the bathroom.
Right.
But
Right.
then you have these people that will come in and you can be very clear and direct with them, and they will literally only hear what they want to hear. So then they
Absolutely.
think that they are the exception to the rule. And so that is where the conflict comes in.
Mhm.
No, you cannot come in and just take.
Yes.
I'm not
Because
going to allow that. And then you become the villain in their story because you didn't allow them to come in and play on you the way that they felt entitled
they should be
to
able
play
to.
on you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's literally, like, I guess, like, the perfect dynamic when you
Mhm.
have the provider and then you have the caretaker.
Yeah,
Like, you have the nurturer, especially if you have kids like how we do,
yeah,
like, there has to be a balance.
yes,
A balance, not, someone doing all the work and somebody doing none of the work, which
yes,
you've kind of spoken about, like, someone wanting to move in, but they have to prove to us that it's worth them moving in.
yeah,
Why am I going to just what? You just think you're just gonna sit in here and do nothing?
right. Because if you're looking for a sponsor, just say that.
Yes, because that's what it is, right? If you cannot provide, if you can't cook, if you can't clean, if you can't add anything to my life, why are you here?
Right here. What are we doing? Because at this point, it's more of a benefit to you than it is me.
And it
You
should be
know,
a mutual
it's
benefit.
supposed to be mutual.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And
But
not just physically, right? But even emotionally. Like, can you make me feel comfortable enough where I don't feel like there's gonna be retaliation? I don't feel like you're gonna throw these things back in my face. Is it a
mhm,
safe space emotionally where I can tell you anything and you don't throw it back in my face when you're upset with me?
yeah.
You don't, talk about my childhood and try to use that against me.
Mhm.
Like, if you can't provide me with any type of support and safety,
Then it's
what are
it's
we doing?
pointless. Exactly. It's definitely
Yeah,
pointless.
yeah.
And I think, what really gets a lot of people because you've seen me go through it, time and time again, but each time I come out with a completely different person. Like the woman that I am today is not
Mhm.
the same woman that I was a year ago.
Mm-mm.
And that woman that I was a year ago is not the same woman that I was 2 years ago because I go through
Mhm.
these experiences
For
and
growth.
it kind of terraforms, not only my mindset and my perspective of my external world, but
Mhm.
what it is that I truly need on the inside. And they say,
Absolutely.
in order to know what you want, you have to be able to start with what you don't want.
That's right. Ooh, listen, I'm telling you because after my last divorce, like, man, I got out of that thing and I had no idea what I wanted, okay?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't wanna ever get married again. I don't wanna do this again, but I knew what I would not accept. I
Yeah.
knew what I didn't want,
Yeah.
and that's what led me to my wife. Because after leaving a partner of 10 plus years, she literally provided me with things that I never thought I could have,
Mhm.
like emotionally, mentally, like spiritually, like to the point where I was like, man, I didn't even know this was possible. Like, wow, and that goes with knowing what you don't want. I
Yes.
don't. And then go into the video.
You want to do the reaction videos now?
Yeah, how what was the last thing we was talking about?
So we were basically talking about how we are basically training people, right, to
No, we were talking about the partnership part.
we were talking about okay, so basically the expectation and that for me, I feel like that is really important, right? And it's something that it's one of those unspoken expectations. And the reason why is because people don't feel comfortable with being vulnerable and open, which is a huge red flag because if you come into contact with somebody that you don't even feel safe enough to have these conversations about what your
Absolutely.
expectations are, then you've already lost. You've already
That's right, because that means that that's not a place of safety or vulnerability for you. That means
exactly.
you will not be able to develop a strong connection and be met with empathy. You can
Yes.
expect to be met with judgment, which is why you don't feel safe or comfortable because that's what you're already feeling is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think that is also what keeps people stuck in a lot of things, right? And if I just had to kind of sum it up, right, it might be a level of guilt because it's like you're expecting someone to read your mind as far as what it is that you want, and there are some exceptions to the rule, right? Because I know that with my last situation, I was very transparent from the rip. So I said the things that I wanted. I
Mhm,
said what I did not want. One of the
mhm,
things that I did not want with that person was a serious commitment off
mhm,
the rip. And I
mhm,
remember specifically telling him, I need to see the way that you operate in real life. And he got offended. And I think he took that as a challenge, right?
mhm.
Because now it's like, let me start performing. Let me put on a show
Right,
so I can make
right.
it seem like I'm different, right? So I'm gonna
Mhm,
show her, you know, my ass, essentially, right? But then
mhm,
I'm gonna let her know, like, hey, I'm different in relationships. Like when I have a girlfriend, it's completely different. And I realized that it's no different, right? The only difference is that the way that he was able to manipulate became a little different. He became more
mm,
secretive because now he had a point to prove, right?
mhm,
He wanted to paint this image of I'm such a good man, right? And
mhm.
if you don't choose me and you don't, you don't comply to what I want, then you're gonna miss out.
Right. I think that fear of missing out is a really big
It's
thing
you.
because it's like it still stems from potential.
Yeah.
It still stems from, "What if this person does get themselves together and then I miss out?"
And I thought that a lot of time that's what literally kept me
Mm,
stuck in that pattern.
mhm.
Because you remember he used to always come back like, "Oh, well, I was gonna do this for you.
"I was gonna buy
I
you
was
this.
gonna do
I
that.
was gonna take you here. I was gonna do,"
Yo,
and I'm
don't
like,
get
"No,
church's
you weren't.
money."
No, you
Like,
weren't."
what? You start realizing like, "Yo, how come it's always what you were gonna do, but not
And you
what you
never did it.
actually did?"
That's right. Because he
Because
realized that that was the way to manipulate you.
yeah, and it only works until you start to actually see past the illusion of it, right?
Mhm,
And that's why the conversation was had last night about like me personally, no disrespect, but I don't feel like you're not a real nigga. Like you're just not, right?
mhm,
Because a real man is going to realize his fault and he's either going to step back and realize like, yo, I fumbled bad. Like I messed up something good.
mm,
Or he's going to try to step in and do something. Like he knew that I wanted cats. He knows someone that has kittens. If I
mm.
was a dude, you know what I'm saying? And I hurt my woman to that extent,
Oh, you gonna have that cat.
I know what it is that you want. I'm going up the block. I'm getting you 3 cats.
3. Well,
I'm
maybe
getting you 3. I mean, I'll be going overboard with it sometimes, right?
yeah.
Knock at your door, put them in the box, and leave it at the door with a note. But that wasn't his intention because his intention was to make sure that he can get as much as he can get from
But
me
you know what? He goes overboard in the opposite way.
in the opposite way.
How much more can I hurt you this time?
Right. And that's why I told you last time I said I feel like every time that I have decided to take him back and I've given him the benefit of the doubt, he has simultaneously figured out a way to one up the disrespect
Mm.
that caused me to lose respect for him the last time. And so again, that goes back to what Ashley said. It is a game. He's literally playing a game with me.
Mhm.
And if you don't ever wake up to that realization that a person that is their intention, because we don't ever want to believe that about the person that we're laying down with.
Right.
We don't want to believe that they're literally playing with us like we a game of Monopoly.
And that comes from us being such a genuine, authentic person, right? So if that's the blueprint, what happens when we start reacting differently? Let's test that with what's happening online right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna share here real quick. Which one you want to do first? You want to do the snaps
I think we should do I think honestly the way that it put it was in order.
in
So it
order?
said, if she leaves
If
after
you leave
everything I
after
put
everything I
her
put
through, she's not real. He kept forgiving me, so I thought I could keep doing it. Some of us don't want peace. We want a pattern we recognize, and that's not peace. That's emotional sedation.
word. All right, let me. All right,
I meant when chaos is your comfort zone, calm love feel. That's what I meant to say. But you
wait.
got
What was it?
it was they in order.
If chaos
It
was your
was if she leaves after everything I put her through, she was never real. That's the first one.
all right. Hold on, baby. I'm scared. All right, I'm gonna share this. All right, and then we're gonna go here. Which one? Why so okay, here we
If
go.
she leaves after everything I put her through wait, is that the one?
Wait, what are you saying?
If she leaves after everything I put her through, she was never real.
Okay. Can you see the screen? Can you hear it?
Yes, I can see it, I can hear it, yep.
All right, I'm gonna put it on. It's from tonight's conversation. Mm.
That's right. What's wrong? That's right. Go with the flow. That's right. Mhm. Mm, mm, mhm. The reason. That's right. Oh,
All
that was
right.
a good point at the end.
So, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate real quick because I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I've literally been on both sides of the spectrum where
Let's see your face. Come back.
how do I let me see. Um that's because we still screen sharing. Let's get out of here real quick.
Flipped it so we know.
Don't have it too loud, please. Um I've been on both sides of the spectrum where I didn't have
What
enough.
happened?
Can you still hear me? Sis? I think you're it's cutting out.
Man, what happened? Uh,
You in there. Okay, I see you. So maybe it's still recording. Okay.
yeah, that's what I meant when I
Okay,
said
it's still in there. All right, cool.
it's
All right.
probably in
Yeah, it's all good. All right. So basically, we were talking about the end, right? And I was saying that I've been on both sides of the spectrum
mhm.
where there was at one point of a time where I thought that, my partner was responsible for reading my mind, right? And so I would do things, kind of to try to like train them on how to treat me.
Hmm.
Like
Elaborate.
I would use things like silent treatment, and
Mhm.
whenever they did, instead of communicating these things
How you
and the
really
reason
felt.
why, because it didn't always used to be like that.
Mhm.
So it would go from like if I'm being communicative, like speaking to them, and I
Mhm.
feel like they're not receptive to it. They're not understanding, or
Mhm.
maybe they choose not to understand because it somehow triggers their ego. So
Mm.
now I go from that to basically just using these different tactics like silent treatment, right? I'm not cooking for you anymore. I'm no longer doing small and special things for you, like doing your hair, you know what I'm saying? Or buying you gifts because you don't deserve that because of
Right.
how you made me feel. Because,
Well, that's sorry, but that's what Kitty was saying, I believe. Isn't that her name, Kitty? She was saying, like, "Don't you notice the behavior?"
yes,
That's what she was saying, and that's the truth, like, but sometimes people don't care enough to pay attention to the behavior of their partner, and that's a whole 'nother problem. Because if this is a person that you love and you care about, you wanna make sure that you know how they act when something is wrong.
right.
Like, I got my wife this really nice mug for her birthday, and I didn't even know why, like, and it also comes with taking accountability and checking yourself, and I didn't know why, but I had an attitude towards her, and I was just looking at the cup, and I'm like, "So you just not gonna use it today?" Like,
So it was that unspoken expectation because you wanted to feel like she valued and,
there it is.
appreciated your effort.
But instead of me telling her, like, "Well, it hurts my feelings that you're not using what I bought you," we have learned that it's better to suppress our emotions, and so when she asked me, "What's wrong?" "Oh, nothing. I'm good."
But you're
'Cause
doing
we
passive
want to
aggressive.
avoid the conflict, right? We wanna maintain that peace because you feel unsafe,
Yes.
and that comes from childhood or past relationships.
Yeah.
We've learned that expressing our true feelings gives our partner ammunition.
To hurt.
So we rejection, we risk shame, we risk punishment. So there's this conditional trust where we believe that we can be safe if we hide our discomfort and we
Yes.
rely on the other person's honesty.
Yes.
It's like we want them to pull it out of us. And that's what the guy was saying.
Mhm.
Why can't we trust you to be honest about your own emotions?
Yeah. But so here's the gag with that, right? And I think when it comes down to, and this could go for anybody, right? But I feel like with Ace, his basically perspective, I think men intentionally ignore what's spoken and what is unspoken because it doesn't benefit them to the level of what they want.
Well, remember, no labels. Let's take off the men and the
Right.
women. Let's just say
So
people,
you
right?
can have an unevolved partner
Hmm.
that will intentionally ignore. You can have the same, and this is why you see in certain dynamics, people will have the same conversations over and over and over again because you didn't hear me the first time. And the reason why you didn't hear me the first time is because it wasn't beneficial to you.
Hmm.
People only are cognitive, they only understand to the level of their ability. And sometimes that ability only happens when it's beneficial to their ego.
Absolutely. And so even though, the partner is showing signs, like you said, stop cooking, stop buying things, stop doing the things that you want or that you know you wanted to do for them,
Yeah.
right? Like you would expect a normal person to be like, or a healthy individual to be like, man, I'm not getting the cooking no more. She not giving me the, like I'm not getting it no more. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Right.
And we don't sometimes people don't necessarily realize that it's something that they're
You're
doing.
doing. So I'm gonna disagree with you there because
Okay.
of my past experience. I think that, and I think it is true in some cases, but I also feel like some people know exactly the reason why. They just don't. I used to say, like, if you're with a partner that is extremely narcissistic, especially a grandiose, right? They don't care about how you're feeling, just as long as it doesn't make them feel bad.
Well, they're also mirrors too. So they will take, as you've seen,
Mm.
literally everything that you say to them and what you do and do it right back to
For
you.
you. Yeah.
And then that's why you fall in love so hard with them,
Because
because 'cause
you
you're
fall in
falling in
love
love with
with a part of
yourself.
yourself.
And so it's hard, right,
Yeah.
to recognize that, okay, I'm gonna hide my emotions for safety or for peace, even if it disconnects me. And then that
Yes.
kind of brings us into what Ace was saying, right, when he was saying that people what was he say? I want that person to continue messing up, so I got the strength to leave.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes allowing a person to keep messing up continues to push you away.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, that's the validation and the proof that you need that leaving is the right choice.
Right.
Because sometimes you don't wanna fix it. And so when you keep allowing a person to keep messing up, okay, it's that self-protection, right? You
Mhm.
hope this person keeps messing up and it lets you detach, which makes the emotional decision easier to leave.
Yes.
But it also is an internal conflict because you want them to get it right.
Mhm.
You want that respect, you want that safety, but at the same time, you recognize, like, I need to let this person make the decision on their own because that's the only way that I could feel comfortable enough to continue seeking signs that you need to leave. And that's your justification.
Yeah.
I need him or her or my partner to keep messing up so I can know that I'm making the right
Right
decision.
decision. Yeah.
Why? Because of that fear of missing out.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? The more they mess up, I'm not missing out on nothing.
Yeah. 'Cause you're showing me exactly what you're capable of, but I think the flip side to that, right? And I think it's something I'm still processing and working through, right? And I don't know if it's a form of narcissism. It could be. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's considered something else, right? But a lot of us don't wanna feel like we are wrong or
Mhm.
bad, right?
Oh, yeah,
And so
of course.
it's easier to extend that rope and let someone else hang themselves
That's
than for
right.
you to just straight push them off the cliff. Like, "Yo, I don't even want this. I'm good." Because at least then at the end of the day, I can say that I tried everything.
That's
I gave
right.
every I exhausted every avenue before you pretty much made the decision to just lose me
Mhm,
entirely.
mhm. But that also goes back to that fear of missing out.
Yeah.
We wanna make sure that we do everything possible, exhaust every option, right?
Mhm.
Until we can say, "You know what? I did everything I could. Now it's time to finally let go." It takes a very strong individual to say, "You know what? This is my boundary." And Vaughn told you this literally yesterday.
Yeah.
I told Tania, "This is my boundaries, and if you do not follow my boundaries, we could be cool. We could be friends.
Right. But you and
But
I
if
had
you
to have
want
ex
me if you want me, you're gonna follow the boundaries that I'm setting." And I'm looking at her like, "What?" Because I wasn't used to Yes, like, I wasn't used to someone dictating their boundaries, and not only just dictating, but setting a firm boundary.
hungry. Yeah.
That is so healthy,
Right.
and that shows how emotionally in tune Vaughn is with herself
Right.
in order to say, "Listen, this is what it is, and if you don't like it,
You
you
could
can go. We can
see
still
way
be
out.
friends,
Yeah.
but I know my emotional worth, I know my value,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna let anybody come over here
And
and
trample over.
disrespect me
Yeah.
or play games with me." And that she honestly taught me a lot
Mhm.
about self-worth, worth because 'cause I'm looking at her like, "What's this?"
Right. You don't even gotta act like that, Tyrese.
Yeah, what you mean? Why you acting like that? Why you got like,
Yeah, that's what I said, Tyrese.
"No, I told you, I threw it back."
Yeah, you
Right. But I think honestly, it takes a huge on your part, a huge self-awareness for you to be able to recognize, I used to silence myself to protect myself, but it also avoided honest dialogue,
Yes.
right? Because that's responsibility for the impact that it had on the other person
Yeah.
in the relationship.
Yeah.
And if your intentions were to protect yourself,
Mhm.
I think that would be a question where I would say, what feeling made me choose silence? instead of a comfort of being able to speak up.
Express yourself and without fear of rejection
Mhm.
or scrutiny by the other person.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So let's dive into the next clip. She kept forgiving me, so I thought I could keep doing it. And honestly, that says a lot in itself.
No, it really does.
Just
Does.
because somebody forgives you, you're going to just take advantage of them and just keep putting them through the same thing,
Huh?
which is crazy work.
All
But I
right.
think that
Mm,
when someone allows repeated harmful behavior unintentionally, gives the signal that that behavior is acceptable.
mhm. No, it definitely does, and I think we talked about that the other day.
Mhm. We did, because the person engaging in the behavior will rely on forgiveness as a safety net.
Safety net because they know for them in their mind, that's pretty much an excuse for them to basically come back unchanged. There's no real work that has to be done. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because in their mind, they're like, well, you said you forgave me.
Right.
So what's
She
the
won't leave.
problem?
I can keep doing
I
this.
can keep doing the same thing. And it
That
shouldn't even matter. And at this point, you keep taking me back. So why are you complaining?
exactly, but that's a cycle of hurt and repeated violations, and even if the intentions aren't malicious, like, is nonsense.
Yes, exactly. Hold on. I got to pull it back up.
No problem. I think that, there's a fear of shame,
Yeah.
confrontation, and they rely on forgiveness to avoid actually taking accountability.
Yeah.
Because in order for forgiveness to really be seen, a person has to be able to see themselves.
And they got to be able to make that change.
Yeah.
All right. You want to do for a long time, I justified my partner's narcissistic behavior or forgiveness after narcissist abuse is not about.
Wait, that's not the ones you gave me? I thought it was she kept forgiving me, so I thought I could keep doing it.
Yeah, but that was just a Google search, the videos that pop up.
Okay, I thought it was an actual video. Okay, say that again.
So for a long time, I justified my partner's narcissistic behavior or forgiving after narcissistic abuse is not about the narcissist.
Mm. They both good. Imma say the second one.
The second one? Okay. All right, here we go. Let's hold on, where's the sound at on here?
Said you
After
forgive the narcissist, and I think it was a great introduction into Mm, mhm, mm.
so I don't think that really touched on. I mean, it did a little bit, right? but not to the full extent.
It's more so saying that, "Yeah, let's try the other one." I feel like that would was kind of like
That was a generalized.
mhm,
I think that's the same girl. For a long time, I justified my partner's narcissistic behavior.
let's try that one.
All right, let me pull it there. And she got on, I like it. She got on the rose-colored glasses,
Oh,
and that's very significant. And a lot of the work that we've, done and spoken through.
mhm. Mm. That's right, take them all.
Alright. So the beginning was, "Oh, we don't need advertisements
We don't
on
need
here."
all the
Oh,
advertisements,
we
we
need
can
all
cut
that.
that part out.
But, I think that literally speaks to a lot of, the experience that so many of us have gone through, right? Where we think that you're gonna be able to justify or excuse away a lot of the behavior that the other person is showing you.
Mhm.
And again, this is not pushing it on one person and taking accountability off of, right? Because at some point, people do need to become aware of what you're not changing, you're choosing. But before you can change something, you have to understand that there is an issue there.
You gotta become aware of it.
You have to be aware of it. You have to be brutally aware, and it hurts, right? Because again, that goes back to the we don't want to believe that the person that we love, the person
That we
that we chose, right, is intentionally trying to hurt us. So we
mhm.
will literally throw on those rose-colored glasses. We will make every excuse in the book for them.
We hurt ourselves first.
We will hurt ourselves first before we finally come to the realization of wake up that, oh, this person, it's not a coincidence.
That's right.
Sometime maybe it's an accident. What they say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me
You.
twice, shame on
Mhm.
me, right? You have to be able to come to that understanding. But again,
That
it's that
realization.
process of actually thinking that this person would intentionally do you harm. This person would intentionally be trying to play with you because why else would you try to loop me into such a cycle? Why would
Mm.
you lie and try to gaslight and manipulate me
Mhm.
unless you were doing it for your own benefit,
Mm.
which is a direct attack and insult on me?
Mhm. I think it's, the difference between excusing behavior and seeing the full reality of the situation.
Yes.
Like you notice negative behavior, but you rationalize it. Like,
You
oh,
trying to, yeah.
he's nice at home.
Mhm,
I'm overreacting. It's
mhm,
my fault. Like,
mhm.
that's literally putting on the rose colored glasses. You're seeing only the positive and minimizing the negative.
Yeah,
And I think it happens why? Hope. We want the relationship to work. And so we cling to the good moments. And it's intermittent good moments that make us feel like, okay, see, they can change. They doing the bare minimum. You see it like little droppings of good behavior. And that intermittent change is enough to make you say, you know what? If they can do this, I know they can change all the way.
right.
And so you begin to excuse the behavior
Mhm,
because that reduces the tension, but it doesn't address the problem.
right.
And we have to also look at our childhood or our past experiences because I think, we begin to justify or normalize the harmful behavior to maintain connection. I think it also goes back to feeling lonely,
Yeah,
to being afraid of being by ourselves because all the movies and all the stories have told us like, oh, we shouldn't be alone.
yeah. We look for someone to show up for us in ways that are way greater than what we are even willing to do for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And this is like something over, the winter, well, the beginning of this year, when I was going through all of that and just that feeling of sitting by myself, you know what I'm saying? And then in comparison to this year where I found myself slightly back in the same position, but not exactly the same, right? Because
Not the same person.
I have obtained tools that have given me a different perspective, right?
Mhm.
So it's like now I realize when I'm anxious and I'm missing that attachment, that is not me.
Mhm.
That is something or an expectation. That's that hope or the fallacy of what could have been, right?
That's right.
But then I remember what it feels like when this person is in my space and
Mhm.
how tolerable I have to become, right? How frustrated, how angry. All of those negative feelings keep rushing back in. How overbearing he is. It feels like a monitoring spirit in my space, right? And so now I have to start taking a look at myself and asking, why is it that you are willing to fucking invite this back into your space
Right.
even though you know that you're uncomfortable with it, even though
Mm.
you know that it bothers you, even though you know you can only deal with it for maybe 2 or 3 days at a time before this person starts showing their mask again.
Mhm. Because it's easier to go through that than to be lonely.
Yeah.
And I think you're beginning to take off the rose-colored glasses. And
Yes.
now that you're seeing those patterns clearly, you're able to observe the behavior objectively rather than interpreting it through that fear or that hope. Now you're able to acknowledge your feelings. Like you just said, I feel hurt when
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z happens,
Mhm.
regardless of the reason. And
Yeah.
so you're able to validate yourself because your reaction is legitimate. You don't need to rationalize the other person's behavior.
Right. Because it don't even matter at this point.
Exactly.
It don't even matter at this point.
Thinking about, like, what patterns emerge when you remove the rose-colored glasses is a huge reflection question because if it's the difference between who you are and it's night versus day, you can see the impact that that individual had on you when y'all were in a relationship versus where you are now that you're no longer in a relationship.
And I think that's scary, right? Because again, it all boils down to in the human mind, it's about being alone versus having someone else, right?
Mhm,
There, and it's really just the company or the entertainment or the drama or the chaos that you have become accustomed to, right?
mhm,
Actually having to pour yourself into projects that you've been thinking about and maybe you haven't been putting your all into because you've been so busy trying to manage and cultivate this relationship that you think is going to progress over time,
mhm,
right? So it's like I keep going from internal to external, knowing that there ain't nothing out there on the external
mhm,
that's going to be 100% fulfilling.
mhm.
And so
So
now
it's
you
like
got to come back to you. It's like I'm gonna try to articulate this the best way that I can, right?
okay.
But the women that keep dating only to find themselves being left over and over again.
Mm,
If you actually break that down, it's not that person leaving you, it is the repeated process of you abandoning and leaving yourself every single time. It's
mhm,
just showing up in the external. It shows up
mhm,
as a man or a woman or whatever, a job, a
mhm,
situation,
mhm,
because you keep abandoning yourself. There's a lady on YouTube, her name is Spirit Doula. I've followed her for years, and she has this saying. She says, "Truth will always be truth." Right? You
mm,
have to be able to follow your prompting. And a
mhm.
lot of people intentionally ignore that because it is uncomfortable. People fear the unknown.
Right.
Don't know what's going to happen if I put this down. I might drop this. What does God have for me then?
Mhm.
I'm
And that's
scared
how
because
we
I
block
don't
our
know.
blessings. We are scared, but that's how we block our blessings because
Blessing.
we're stuck in what's comfortable instead of
Yes.
letting go of
Hard it.
that situation in order for us to be blessed by the universe, by what we're supposed to be in. That
Mhm.
situation that I was in 10 years ago, it was nowhere near the happiness that I have right now
Right.
because I was able to let go and find myself in a scary place. It was scary. I was in a situation that I never thought I would be in, but I was blessed to have such an amazing family show up because I created space for it.
Mhm.
I no longer was neglecting my needs or my feelings to accommodate others or to avoid conflict, but I was really allowing, my emotions and my intuition to finally have space for something new. And that honestly is, I think that happens because of childhood experiences where there's neglect or conditional love or trauma. And it teaches us that our needs are secondary. So abandoning ourselves feels safer than allowing somebody else to reject us or punish us or being in conflict with someone else.
Oh, yeah. No, I 100% agree with that, and I think for me, and I mentioned this before, I've always been the type of person where I've had to take my lessons on the chin, like, I had to take them the hard way, right? Because my mom used to
Mhm.
always tell me, like, "Yo, you're hard-headed."
Mhm.
I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'll listen." But it's not true, right? There are
Right.
certain things that a person has to go through. Maybe sometimes you repeat that same lesson more than once. Some people, they repeat it 20 times before
Mm,
they finally get the message, right? It's like being
right.
slowly awakened from a deep slumber, only to have sleep amnesia. So
Mm,
then you're in this state of being where you keep going in and out of consciousness until one day you finally wake up and it clicks and it sticks and it's up and it's stuck.
mhm. 'Cause sometimes people have to go through that lesson more times because they didn't get it yet. I guess I got my lesson pretty quickly.
Tell me you ain't
I
got
don't need it no more. Universe. I I listen, I was hard-headed when I was younger, okay? But listen, I have definitely learned and even, like in the beginning of my marriage, like Vaughn has been so amazing because she told me about myself several times. Told me about, the things that I was saying or the things that I was doing and how it's impacting her or the kid. And I had to really sit back and look at that like, man, why am I doing this?
right.
I had to really reflect on myself, like, what drives me to do this? And it comes from my past relationship. It comes from my childhood. I have been conditioned to feel like I'm too much. I've
Mm,
been conditioned to feel like I'm not good enough. And so, guess what I did? Self
oh
sabotage.
gosh.
So, early on in our relationship, I was self sabotaging. I was pushing her away, right? Because the go back to that game, it was a game for me. Am I going to be as difficult as I was told I was in my last relationship? And if that's
Mm,
the case, let me know now if you can't handle me so I can be gone before I get too invested.
right. And that's a real self-realization moment. You know what I'm saying? And that is an opportunity for growth because once you start being able to see yourself and speculate on yourself from that level, that's when real
Mhm.
change actually can happen,
Absolutely.
right? But I think it's a lot of us, and at one point I was stuck in that, right? To where I didn't want to analyze my own behaviors and my own flaws. I didn't
Mm,
want to analyze or even take a look at the fact that you have a problem with self-esteem. And you also have a problem with setting boundaries. And this is
mm,
why you keep allowing the same person back into your life, just in different faces.
mhm, mhm,
Because fundamentally, you believe that this is what it's supposed to look like. Your
mhm,
needs, your wants, your safety and mental health is not a priority. You're
mhm.
supposed to put other people above thee. And that's not what it's supposed to be, right? It should be two people that value themselves enough to be like, hey, this is what I'm willing to accept. This is what I can deal with. And this
That's
is a
right.
non negotiable.
That's right.
And if that's a problem, you can keep it pushing.
That's right. I think those repeating patterns that undermine your goals, undermine your well-being, and literally acting against your own best interest is us subconsciously, like people pleasing and procrastinating because that's our fear. The mind protects us from perceived risk, even if the risk is something that we need to grow.
Yeah, and it's damn scary. It's
Oh
really
yeah,
scary,
it's terrifying. Like
right?
I literally I have a client who has been in a situation that, is very self-sabotaging
Mm,
because even though they know that they should be doing better, it's like there is no way that they can admit that this is another person that is not there for their benefit.
mm,
They know they deserve better, and that's kinda what you were speaking on, right? They know they deserve better, but they're still not in that realization phase where they can actualize this person is doing X, Y, and Z to me. There is no way they can care about me the way that I care about them.
right.
And so instead of labeling self-sabotage as a failure, we need to view it as this was our lesson. This is information that we needed, you
Grow.
know, in order to heal, in order to have some type of adjustment or our awareness, like you said, to grow. But each act of self sabotaging points to unresolved fears. What am I afraid will happen if I succeed? Now, that particular question is literally, like, what if there is so much success that happens? Like, even with our podcast, what are
Mm.
we going to do if our podcast blows up? That's scary.
It's
But
not
we
for
should
me.
be scared.
It's exciting.
Well, it is exciting. It should be
Oh, yeah,
exciting.
I'm waiting for it.
It should be exciting. It should be something that we're waiting for. But if it's unresolved fear,
Of
it's
success.
scary.
Yeah.
We fear success because we don't know what we're gonna do when it comes. And that
Mm,
stems from our childhood.
right.
We don't know what to expect.
Mm.
Or those boundaries that are not enforced. Where we think like, well, what if I'm giving away my power? What do I do when I get my power back?
How do
What
I navigate
exactly?
this?
How do I navigate this situation? What do I do?
Mm.
It takes a lot of, self-actualization for someone to recognize that growth is messy
Yeah.
and mistakes are part of learning.
Mhm.
So we have to take the action to replace the sabotaging behavior with a conscious, aligned, intentional choice.
Yeah.
This is what I need to do for my greater good. And that's not easy.
It's not easy, especially as a people pleaser, right?
Mhm.
As a people pleaser, I know that I have automatically assumed that me prioritizing myself was going to be offensive or threatening to the person that I'm supposed to be in relationship with. Not
Mhm.
realizing that if that me having boundaries, me establishing some sort of self-worth and value, right? And prioritizing, not saying that I'm being self-centered, right? But
Mhm.
making sure that I'm doing what I need to do so that I can elevate in this world to become what God intended me to become.
But I don't think that's being self-centered. I
So I
think
well, that's why I said it's not to say that it's me being self-centered, right? As a people pleaser, that is automatically where your mind goes because
right.
you're so
Right.
afraid of how the other person is going to perceive that. That is different, right? If you go from always managing their emotions, showing up for them, doing things that make them happy, even if it's to your own detriment,
Detriment. Yeah.
it's an inner war inside of your mind where you're like, yo, I don't want them to feel like I'm just about myself. But
Well, it's
sometimes you have to pop out and show niggas. Like you just have
listen.
to.
Listen. Okay, Kendrick.
Excuse me
Look.
for the language for anyone at home that's offended, okay? But
Listen.
it's true.
No, because I think you're learning to define your worth by how well you meet others' expectations.
Yeah.
And there's a fear of disappointing others. Saying no. What Beyonce say? "The first time I say no, it's like I
Like, you will
never
never
said
say
yes."
yes.
You're saying no or prioritizing yourself, and it feels risky, right? Because you've learned that, all right, this is something that I know this is gonna make a person upset,
There'll be
uncomfortable,
repercussions to it.
even when it's necessary.
Yeah. And I think that that goes back to, the internal war that is healing.
Mhm.
Because it's literally a battle of you versus you. It's the old version of
Absolutely.
you versus the version of you that is trying to excel.
That's right.
Maybe that relationship wasn't meant to be, and you had to find yourself in it, right? And it just so happens as a byproduct of you showing up and finding yourself, it just happened to hurt the other person. It's not because you intended to hurt them, right?
Right.
It's not personal, baby. It's personal.
That's right. That's right. Because I think if we reframe it for, like, growth, we have to recognize that self-sabotage is almost like feedback. It's not failure. It highlights where you need boundaries.
Yes.
If you need to reinforce those boundaries, if
And
you need to, address your needs, if you need to trust yourself more,
hmm
it allows you to learn and practice self-respect. That's not you letting other people down. That's you finally excelling and raising and ascending yourself.
yeah.
But honestly, your nervous system has been trained to go in a fight or flight mode, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, this person's gonna leave me. What's gonna happen if I begin to prioritize myself?
Are they gonna find, comfort and stability and safety in somebody else? So now, you have that fear of abandonment. You don't wanna feel like you're being replaced,
That's
right?
right.
But it's like also in the same token, what was meant for you will never
Will be
leave.
for you. Mm-hmm.
It will be for you.
Mm-hmm. And you
And
gotta
that's
ask yourself, like, is this choice serving me or them? And so I always tell my clients to start small, like practice saying no to small things.
yo, can I get $1? No, no. I think that is one of the and hopefully he takes it. If he don't, he don't, right? But that was one of the conversations because I remember looking at that. No is a complete sentence, right? So, babe, can I get $5? You decided to walk off of a job that you knew that you needed, and you tried to use me as an excuse as to why you do it. I have 7 kids, you're not one of them.
Hmm. She said, grow up.
Grow up all the way to the top. That's it.
Grow up. Be a
No, I
man.
cannot. Yeah, I cannot. Cannot sleep over. No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why not? Because I like my space. I like my peace and
Mm-hmm.
my comfort. I like being able to wake up in the morning and remember my dreams. That is
Mm-hmm.
just not a thing when you're next to me. For some reason, I saw something creepy, and I think this is for another episode. But
Okay.
some time ago, I seen it was a bunch of women. They were talking about men that put spells on them in their sleep. This woman caught her dude whispering negative affirmations over her while she was sleeping.
Wow. Well, I've had experience where I was going through sleep what's it called?
Paralysis,
Paralysis.
which is not healthy. It's not natural. That just tells you it's a demon. Get away from
It's so scary, like, when you begin like, I wanna go back to what you were saying, like, "No" is a sentence. When I first heard that, I was like, "What?" Like, you don't wanna just, like, tell them
explain.
why? Like, you wanna over explain when you are unhealed because you don't understand that no means no.
This was no. Yeah.
It's it's something that people should just be able to say and just be able to do,
Mhm.
but it's not taught. We don't we haven't learned that just saying no is a way of us accepting ourselves and just being in tune and aware of what we need.
Mhm.
It's always this thought of, "Oh my gosh, if I tell this person no, they're gonna be mad at me. If I tell this person no, they're gonna think that I'm mad at them." No, I could tell you no and not be upset with you, baby.
And I don't feel no sort of way, baby. It's just I no, like I can't do it.
Mhm.
Can't show up for you in a way that benefits you because it's detrimental to me. And
That's
that's
right. That's
but
right.
sometimes I don't even need to be explained because if you keep showing up and showing a person that time and time again, and at some point, people, like Vaughn said yesterday, people only do what you allow them to do,
Yep.
right? So if a person feels like they can constantly show up and drain you, that they can exhaust you, that they can benefit from you, that they can take you, they can show
Mm.
up and expect you to
They
do
will
all
do it.
that you're not even willing. And I posted this on my Facebook the other day. I said, I'm done helping
Mhm.
perfectly able bodied people.
Mm.
So do not expect me to show up for you in ways that you're not even willing to show up for yourself. Don't think
Mhm.
I'm gonna pray for you when you're not even praying for yourself. Don't think I'm gonna look into anything for you to help benefit you and you're not even doing the work for yourself.
Mm.
Don't expect me to love you more than you are willing to love yourself.
Ooh.
Because you let people come in and trample over you. So now you found one. You thought that you had one. You thought that
Mm.
you got one, right? Only to find out that I'm not that one. I'm
Mm.
her.
Mhm.
I'm not the two, but I'm the one. And now you're offended because you're like, oh, and people will have this way of trying to frame it. Oh, well, I would never do you like that. I
Mm.
wouldn't, if the shoe was on the other foot, I would show up for you in this way. And we talked
When?
about this the other day,
I
right?
haven't seen it.
And it is that too, right? But then because the type of time that I'm on, that's you. Do not expect me. We are cut from two different kentes, baby,
Mm.
right? Because I learned my lessons the hard way. And you might have been one of those lessons. So do not think that I'm going to go from here. I'm not meeting you on your level. And you
Mhm.
use that as a way of manipulation to get me to sway to what benefits you. Again, it keeps coming back to you. People will
Mm.
always make you feel bad for choosing you.
Right?
Because why? You're selfish. How dare you do what's good for you? You should be doing what's good for me.
Mhm.
Chuck the deuces real fast
Mm.
and be mad
And,
and
I
go
think
cry to your dad.
but that's, like, going back to what you were saying, like, the internal war, right? Like, there's a conflict. There's a conflict of emotions and thoughts and desires within yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because part of you wants to change and wants to grow and level and ascend, but then the other part wants to cling to those old patterns,
Yeah.
the fear, the comfort zone. And so you began experiencing shame, guilt, embarrassment, doubt, right?
Yep.
While also simultaneously holding out hope, right? Holding out, that there's going to be some type of courage that you're going to eventually be able to get out of it, but you're being pulled between that old conditioning and the new
In the
wave
new.
of being.
Yep.
And I think it really comes from healing triggered unresolved wounds from childhood, unhealthy relationships, past trauma. And so there's an old survival mechanism that you typically use, right? That defense mechanism, the people pleasing, the self sabotage, the avoidance.
Yep.
And it's in conflict with your new self-awareness, your
Mhm.
new boundaries, right? And so there's this war where like your psyche and your nervous system is trying to recalibrate what you are learning to prioritize that self-respect, that
Yeah.
self-compassion,
Right.
that authentic being. And is you're becoming conscious of these patterns that once ran automatically.
Oh
And
yeah.
you're learning to, as you have this internal battle, you're learning to strengthen your self-trust.
Mhm.
You're learning to strengthen that resilience.
Yep.
You're learning to strengthen that emotional intelligence. And so you're finally learning to like identify the part that fears change versus the
Mhm.
part that wants to heal and wants to grow.
Yeah. No. Whole I 100% agree. And I think that that process of becoming is one of the most hardest things because
Mm.
and it's not a one-time occurrence either.
Oh. Oh, no, it's a lifetime thing.
Think in my experience, right? It feels like for everybody else, it feels like it's so It's like back to back.
It's
So
continuous.
it's continuous, and it's like, damn, Kim, you found another person that's literally doing the same thing, right? And so eventually people, the people that are closest to me and that really truly know me and love me, they get it, right? But people that think they know me, they're like, damn, like you habitually make the same mistakes over and over again. Like you in
In
another
your face.
right. And it's like, yes, it's because maybe the lesson wasn't learned the first 3 or 4 times, right?
That's right.
But each and every time, because I remember telling Ashley this the other day, I said, "I don't care what it looks like externally," right? I said, "I know how I feel," because she was like, "Oh, you're not done. You're not done with him." I said, "Yes, I
Mm,
am. I'm
mm,
100% done." And I know
mm.
on the outside because you think that you have calculated my patterns, right? And
Mhm,
because this has been an ongoing reoccurring thing, I know how I feel internally. I know when I'm at that point of transition.
mhm,
And so when I start, putting distance or separation, right? I start setting and enforcing boundaries, right? I know maybe I can't keep him blocked
mhm,
because there is a part, and this is me being honest, there is a part of me that is still attached to the chaos, right? And the
mhm,
drama.
mm.
That's a fundamental premises of me. So I
Mhm,
want to see what you have to talk about.
mhm.
I'm at a point where I'm not explaining shit. So you can try to guilt trip me all you want. Now it's like it's this weird test that my higher self keeps putting my body
Yes,
through, mind
putting you
through. Where
back
I'm like,
into it.
I'm not heartless, but I don't have a heart when it comes to nonsense anymore.
Mm,
I'm not entertaining that. So I can respond differently to you. And
mhm,
now, because of the way that you see I'm responding and you realize that I'm not reacting to your gaslighting and your manipulative tactics, I've already come to peace that I'm going to be the villain in his story. And I'm
mhm,
okay with that. No
mhm,
problem.
mhm,
Because you will always tell that part and not the part where I gave you multiple chances and you
mhm,
continuously disrespected me. You continuously violated me. You continuously disregarded, berated me,
mhm,
and belittled me.
mhm. I think sometimes it's hard to be done,
Yeah,
right? Because, like you said, the people that are closest to you, they created a safe space for you to be. But
yeah,
the people who think they know you, it's constant throw in your face your mistakes. And that's a problem. That is one of the biggest problems when it comes to support.
yeah.
Is I didn't tell you this for you to judge me. I didn't tell you this for you to keep throwing it in my face. I told you this for you to be a supportive space for me.
Hmm.
I told you this for you to help me because I'm struggling.
Hmm.
And I think that was one of the things that we've even talked about. I told you, listen, I'm not here to judge you.
Hmm.
Maybe you're making mistakes, but you're human.
Right.
And my job, you have called me your sister. We are sisters. My job is to create that safe space for you to vent, for you to tell me everything that you need to tell me, and me not to be like, girl, why are you doing that? What's wrong
Hmm.
with you? Are you a
Right.
fool? I've never said that, and I will never say that because, as you said, this is your journey.
Hmm.
And maybe there's a part of this lesson that you haven't quite got yet.
Hmm.
Because patterns never fully disappear. You start changing the way you react to them, and you
Yes.
stop being controlled by them. So you will respond intentionally rather than automatically now, because 'cause you're
Yes.
no longer carrying that guilt or that shame around like you used to. And so you can look back without regret and acknowledge your growth, even when there are challenges, even if you do decide to go out to lunch. That's not a setback. Maybe
Hmm.
there's a part of you, like you said, right, where you're being tested, where you're flirting with danger. I gotta be able to make sure I'm done because that's just a part of your journey. Healing and transformation are lifelong processes.
Hmm.
There's no endpoint. We will continue growing until the day we die. Completion is less about erasing the pattern and more about reclaiming your choice and your agency.
Yes.
And that self-compassion is crucial because you
Yeah.
have to be able to recognize progress rather than perfection.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely something that I will continuously learn throughout my life, right? But it's not ever gonna be the same as it was today,
Mhm,
yesterday, or the day before, right?
mhm,
Because I feel like I keep jumping over these hurdles, crossing these barriers, and I end up a little bit closer at the finish line.
mhm.
And that's just what it is.
Yeah, advice.
Yeah. So when we talk about the blueprint and basically what that looks like, right? And giving a person that demo or the plan of how to hurt us,
Mhm.
how do we reframe that or change our approach and moving forward to make sure that we are setting the right foundation and the right blueprint to make sure that whoever we are inviting into our space, whether it's in friendship or, romantic relationship, how do we make sure that we set the proper blueprint so that we don't repeat recurring patterns?
I think it honestly starts with awareness. I think we need to understand the dynamic that we're putting ourselves into. I
Mm,
think, the old narrative looks like, "Oh, it's my fault. I did this to me. I'm too sensitive. I attract this person because I'm flawed." I think
mm,
instead of looking at it like that, we need to reframe it. Reframe that narrative and say, "You know what? The narcissist or the narcissistic behavior that I experienced
mm,
is them reflecting their issues and not my worth." And saying, like, my patterns may have made me more susceptible, but that doesn't make me to blame.
mm.
And I think, being able to, because we've already covered the fact that there does take two to tango. We already, like, it's not about
It's not one sided.
accountability. Like, we know that there's definitely accountability for the victim, right? But there has to be an ability for us to reframe that narrative and then even ask ourselves, when you think about the relationship, do you feel guilty or shame for things that are outside of your control? Like, can you identify what the narcissist is doing? Can you identify their tactics versus your own actions? Do you see your patterns as information and not justification for abuse?
Mm,
Because recognizing the patterns that you actually bought into, right? The people pleasing, the low boundaries, seeking external validation. Like, the purpose of those is to identify areas of growth and not blame ourselves. But we have to ask ourselves, like, are these patterns that are active today? Or are they diminishing now that I'm growing?
mm.
And even going back to that childhood, because I love connecting childhood, right? How do these patterns connect back to your childhood experiences or your past traumas?
Why
Because
is it so important? I'm sorry. Why is it so important for people to be able to identify and connect between what their current patterns are and then relate it back to their childhood trauma? Because I think a
because
lot of people get lost in making logic of their
mm,
they try to objectify or make logic of their emotion
because
or
I think
patterns.
that's the blueprint, right? Like, what you did in the past, what you experienced in your past, your childhood, or your past relationships, that kind of tells you why your future, or not even your future, but why your present, right, happened the
Mm,
way that it did. Everything stems from your past and your childhood. And if we are able to become aware of how those things impacted us, we will
mhm.
know what's going to happen in our present. And by us being able to know what's going to happen in our present, that will allow us to change our future.
Yes.
And so we have to reclaim our boundaries.
Mm,
Like, if we look at the old blueprint of, okay, I got to tolerate this disrespect in order to keep this person. I got to let them say what they want to say to me because that's love.
mm,
What if we change that into a new blueprint of, I can enforce my needs and my boundaries and still remain compassionate?
mm.
I can still tell this person, "What? No," and not have no hate towards them.
Right.
Like, how do you respond when someone crosses your limits? You ain't gotta go off all crazy, right? But the healed version of you can say, "No, I'm not gonna do this because that is detrimental to me."
To me. Yeah.
And in that, we have to rebuild that self-worth, right? Because I think there's a part of us where we think that we have to earn love, that our value is conditional.
Mm,
But if we reframe that narrative, right? And say, I am worthy. I don't have to earn love, especially not through self-sacrifice or people pleasing.
right.
That is where you reach that emotional regulation. Because healing requires you to be able to process trauma without suppressing or over identifying with it.
Mm,
And I think that there's a beautiful thing where you can respond with awareness and with, techniques like challenging those negative thoughts and using grounding techniques instead of using that old blueprint of what? Reacting blindly or unconsciously to triggers.
yeah.
Because when you're aware, you become aware,
And you don't
right?
take it, it's not personal anymore.
You know what's happening now.
Mhm.
So now you could think, okay, what triggers still invoke that intense emotional reaction?
Mm,
And you can start beginning to grow and say, I'm not defined by what happened to me. I define my own story. And I'm only, like you said, going back to that logic, I'm only using those past experiences to guide me towards resilience, towards growth, to loving myself and to trusting myself. And then
mm,
you can ask yourself, okay, what lessons did I learn from this relationship? How have I changed? How have my patterns, my behaviors, my actions, my boundaries changed?
yeah. I think that for me, like when you say that, it reminds me of something that has come up a lot, right? For me, is forgive but don't forget.
Mm, 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 mm.
And people
Woo!
assume that because, y'all have moved past a certain point, right? Like let's say you learned something, y'all went through something, and so now it taught you to set a new standard or a boundary. So you start to enforce that. And they're like, well,
Mm,
you said you forgave me. Forgiveness doesn't mean that I just forgot what you did.
mhm.
It taught me where I had to
Draw the
draw the
line.
line so
That's
that
right.
way you're not able to cross that again and
Mhm,
do the same thing so I don't have the same response or reaction or I don't feel or get hurt in the same manner.
mm,
And then, also wanted to bring up, when we confuse empathy with endurance.
mm,
And I think that says a lot to people that stay in very unhealthy dynamics for
mhm,
too long
mhm,
because they assume that, you always want to see the best in somebody else,
mhm,
right? And you think that seeing the best means that you have to endure all the nonsense that they are dishing out.
mm. So you dropped a couple of bombs there, so I think when we break down the concept of forgiveness, like it's literally like releasing the emotional burden, the anger, the resentment towards the person who hurt you, but not forgetting. You still remember those lessons that you learned, right?
Hmm.
And you have to, because I think sometimes we turn a blind eye towards those lessons, but we don't recognize that remembering those lessons is what helps us protect ourselves. And it lets us make more empowered choices in the future. So tying it back to why do we need to know about childhood trauma or our past relationships or what's happened to us?
Hmm.
Because it's healing
Yeah,
to know, right? Without compromising boundaries or that self-respect by thinking about what we went through, i.e., the lessons learned.
exactly.
Forgiveness prevents us from, and they always say, oh, well, forgiveness is for me, not you. And I always wondered, well, why is that the case? because we're able to release those toxic emotions that have impacted us, right, mentally and physically,
Mhm.
but not forgetting ensures that it don't happen again, right? Because if we suppress it or we forget it, it's going to happen again. We
You're
are
gonna
going
stay
to allow
forever.
someone to continue violating our boundaries.
Mhm.
And then there's no balance
Mhm.
for us. Because if we continue to allow this person to do these things, where is our self compassion? Where is our self protection? We're not able to release that emotional weight. We are not able to say, you know what, I forgive you for my peace. And I think that's something that I heard you say recently.
Mhm.
It's not about you, it's about me.
Yeah.
So, what lessons did we learn? Okay, we learned how to identify those red flags. We learned that a person can go lower than low to hurt us. We
Mhm.
can learn that, we get triggered and that if we allow a person to keep doing the same thing, even though we wouldn't do it, they would do it.
Yeah.
And we learn not to tolerate that shit anymore
Right.
because we learn to use what we've learned to make empowered decisions for the future.
Exactly. So I think there's also something to be said with, that rewiring and taking all of those things into consideration, for people to be able to sit with the guilt when you say no, because
Mm,
there comes a certain level of guilt, especially when you've been accustomed to people pleasing.
people pleasing. Yep.
And I think people are able to sense that from a mile away. So they know
Yeah.
when you have low boundaries, they know when you have a desire to make them happy over your own
Mhm.
peace,
And they
right?
use that.
And they'll
Mhm.
use it against you. They'll weaponize it against you in every single way. I mean, I have proof right here. Y'all want to see? No, I'm just kidding. But it's very, very true. And so it's like being okay with becoming the villain in someone else's story,
Mm.
because ultimately, maybe that's not the truth. Maybe I'm not the villain in his story, right? He's just very good at playing
Making you
that,
mhm.
making
Making you
me
believe
believe
that.
that, right?
Mm,
So now it turns into from an external conflict to an inner war.
mhm. 'Cause now you believe that.
I believe that fundamentally, and not really, not
Mhm.
anymore,
Mhm.
but there was a point where I'm like, "Hey, let me try this again. Let me try this again. Let me try this again." So, ultimately, I've trained this individual that it is okay to disrespect me.
Mhm.
You disrespect me, you know, we go away, you come back, and now you've learned that, okay, she put up with this. So now I'm gonna one up the disrespect
Mm, mm, mm.
because you accepted this last time. So basically, in their mind, what's a goon to a goblin?
I think also there's a thought of, like, I wonder if it's a game, like, how much can I get away with before they no longer will accept me?
Accept it. Yeah.
And that goes to what you were saying, right? The empathy with endurance,
Hmm.
right? Because when we break down empathy, it's about understanding and feeling what someone else experiences without you losing yourself in their emotions, right?
Yeah.
And endurance, being able to like maintain your own boundaries and having that clarity while navigating someone else's challenges.
Yes.
Together, it's caring so deeply without, sacrificing your emotional well-being. But I think the endurance part kind of stems from how long, how much.
Can I actually get away with
Yes.
what can I do?
Yes, and it allows for a compassionate individual to be taken advantage of because it teaches that love and understanding are powerful at the expense of you.
Hmm.
And so we have to be able to set those boundaries, right? Which is knowing what you can handle and communicate clearly to that individual.
Yes.
Because if we are not setting those boundaries, and it's one thing to set them, but it's another to what?
Or some.
Enforce them,
Yeah.
because that is the hardest thing for a people pleaser to do.
Hmm.
You apologize excessively and you force yourself to say yes to something that you know you don't
Don't
want to
want to
do.
do. Yeah.
You over explain your actions, and people notice when you do that.
You're like, "Oh,
They'll
she wants to impress me. I am that special," to where she is now more focused on making
me.
sure that I understand, even though I don't care what she's
Mhm,
talking about, but
mhm.
it just feels good. It's an ego boost.
Mm.
So you're
Yeah.
feeding that person's ego, and they
Mm.
know it. They just eating it up.
Yup, and you're inviting that exploitation. You're inviting those repeated patterns of imbalance to come into your relationship
Yep.
because they take advantage of your generosity. I'm not gonna put your business out there on the street, but I have seen it
Mhm.
firsthand. You have gone above and beyond, over accommodating, consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, just in so many ways. And it was just like, yo, like, how far?
How much is enough? Like,
How much?
what is it that you need to see? What does this person? Because you and Ashley both said the same thing. What is it that this person has to do
Mm-hmm.
for you to finally be like, "Yo, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it no more."
Mm,
And 3 days ago or 2 days ago, that was it.
mm-hmm.
And it wasn't anything that they did per se. They did do something that was a catalyst, because in my mind, I'm like, "Yo, I am intentionally being stupid."
Mm.
Because even when the proof is right there in front of you,
You refuse
and
to
you still find yourself trying to justify reasons to stay with this person, that is a problem.
it was
And that's
denial.
scary, because that means that that person has more control over you
Then you
than
do.
you do for your own well-being.
Mm-mm-mm.
That's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew it. He could see it. He probably smelt that from a mile away.
Mm-mm.
He'd seen me coming a mile away. I promise you that.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. I mean, and that's the hardest part, right? Because that is what literally gives space for a narcissist to gaslight you. That's what gives space to a narcissist to manipulate you
Mhm.
because they know that they could literally just love bomb you or convince you to convince yourself that you're wrong.
Yep.
And you like, what? No, like there's no way. Like you got them rose colored glasses on so you don't see it.
Right. But when you take them off,
You deny your feelings until you take it off. And then you start realizing, like, whoa, what is going on?
mhm.
What am I feeling right now? Because this is not my emotions. This is their emotions.
Right.
But I think if we, like if we really break it down, like there's a fear of rejection that a narcissist threatens. Like you said, they can smile it from a mile away. They know that you don't want because of that people pleasing behavior. They know that you don't want them to be upset with you.
Right. Yeah. And so, they will exploit it. But I think, that goes to say about, some tendencies of people pleasing,
Mhm.
and that desire and that need to fix people, that I've always, I think personally, I've always, found people where they were at their either lowest, right? Or they were emotionally misaligned.
Mm.
And so I know that my empathy is a strength, but it is also my biggest downfall,
Mhm.
because it leads me to self-abandonment. So that I have to ask myself, what patterns is it that I'm protecting because it feels familiar?
Mhm. Mm. You know, and I think you stop being a victim of your blueprint the moment you decide peace doesn't have to feel like punishment.
Oh yes.
And it's like peace because I think I remember you saying you chose comfort in chaos. And
It was
it's
familiar.
like, say that again?
It was familiar.
Exactly. It was comfortable. So
Hmm.
you was like, "Wait a minute. This is too I don't like this. This is too peaceful for me.
Hmm.
Bring on the drama, baby. I need it." And I was the same way.
Yeah.
When I finally got into my marriage with Vaughn and it was so peaceful, it was like she gave me this uncomfortable jolt of just peaceful tranquility. And I'm looking like, What are we doing? Like, where's the
Right,
trauma?
right.
What? Like, it's
The
so
text messages at where the lie to see,
yes,
I need reason to question myself, damn it.
yes,
Listen
yes.
to me.
I'm looking for it, right? Because it was so confusing to come from such a toxic environment to such a calm one.
Yes.
And I'm just like, yo, I could have had this long ago. What was I thinking?
Mhm.
But I think, like you should be able to have that safe space with your person.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, like it's just, it's a sign, it's a red flag that you're not where you should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely 100% agree with that. Love should regulate your nervous system and it should never activate your trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that brings us to our fourth and final segment. It's just our final reflections. So I think you already said it. You can't heal in the same blueprint that broke you.
Mm-hmm. Because, honestly, sometimes protecting your peace looks like unlearning your patterns. And that is such a powerful statement
I agree.
because going back to the childhood trauma,
Hmm.
we learn chaos. We
Hmm.
learn that that's our safe space. And we learn that that has to be acceptable in order for us to feel that comfort.
Yeah.
So we're going to do something a little bit different today.
All right. Are you doing do you have Oracle or
I have
Tarot?
these.
Okay, you got Tarot.
All right. So we are going to throw in some some cards for you guys today.
So
How many you
yeah,
want to pick?
I'm gonna just pick one.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do an Oracle card for the collective. And this is
And
just
I'm
an
gonna
overall
do a
energy
tarot
vibe check.
card
Huh?
for the collective
Yep. Um, just something positive, motivational.
to leave you guys with.
Exactly. Exactly. Hold on.
Okay.
My card be acting stupid, girl. Come on, universe. Ancestors. Come on. All right, you pick yours first.
You pick yours first. Look.
All right, hold on. We got something on the top. You know what? We're gonna go with trust.
How fitting.
So this card it says, allow me, divine, to give you my deepest longings, trusting you to know exactly how to handle them.
Mm, 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 mm.
Right?
Mm. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that was such a very necessary card pull because it could be used in trusting yourself or trusting your partner.
Yeah. Yep. And it definitely goes with the concept of this episode,
Mhm.
because we really ultimately the end message is to be able to trust yourself enough to make decisions that are going to benefit you in the long run.
Absolutely. Mm.
Your turn.
So I ended up picking the Ace of Pentacles, and it was upside down.
Oh, in reverse. What's the energy? What's the vibe, honey? Hold on. We need some politics.
So the Ace of Coins, um, it signals mischances,
Mm.
shaky foundations, or hesitation around receiving abundance. Maybe you're doubting your worth or procrastinating on a practical step. Maybe you're chasing a short term gain instead of long term growth.
Mm.
It can also show up when a promising opportunity comes with strings attached or there are hidden complications.
Mm.
The universe may be offering you something, but are you ready to say yes and follow through? Reevaluate your relationship to security, self-worth, and effort.
Mm, in reverse, though.
In
So,
reverse.
does that possibly mean that everything said that represents that card is the opposite? So maybe a person has surpassed that barrier and now all of those things are starting to now come in. So all the missed opportunities and blockages perhaps are now starting to flow through.
No,
Out of
that
curiosity. That was the reverse message?
that was the reverse yes, that was the reverse message, yes. Listen, I that was it. That
Okay. Shots fired. Pew, 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 pew. Yo, where's the
it's the
where's the
universe.
stop?
It wasn't me, it was the universe.
Hold on, we gotta is it there? No, it's not.
It wasn't me, it was the universe, I ain't do it.
All right. Well, we'll do it because that makes
Can't cut the phone off.
yeah, that definitely it definitely hit. It resonated.
Mm,
And I definitely I feel like this was a really, really, really good episode. I feel like we touched on a lot of essential and key things as it pertains to healing, which I am a huge advocate of. Always be learning, elevating, and growing.
absolutely.
Um, so we definitely hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode.
Mhm.
If you did, please make sure to show us some love.
Show us some
Make
love.
sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with
Subscribe.
someone who is currently struggling with boundaries and, maybe just overall choosing partners that might not necessarily be healthy for them. Also,
Mhm.
make sure you guys check the link in our bio. We got a bunch of stuff that's going to be coming out for you guys, stuff that's going to be linked in there. So check the description and then
2 mics, 1 mission.
no filter. That's the vision.
See y'all next time.
No
No
labels, just vibes. Okay, what?